Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors. Dr. Allen chats with successful investors exploring their journey from setback to triumph. Through this window, we glimpse the truths that inspire our guests to invest abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. And now your host, Dr. Allen.
Welcome to Creekside Chats with successful multifamily real estate investors, where we delve deep into the lives of our successful guests to learn the secrets of thriving to flourish abundantly in all areas of life. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Today's guest identifies as a country boy from Brisbane, Australia. He studied software engineering at Queensland University of Technology, moved to London to work in finance, lost his job in the 2008 financial crash, and became a world adventurer and gadabout roaming through Europe, Russia, China, USA, Central America, with all his worldly possessions on his back. Ending up in Russia with no job prospects because of language barriers. He tried his hand at digital marketing, and as the saying goes, the rest is history. Let's learn more about this fascinating individual and learn about his remarkable life and achievements. Welcome to the show, Kris Reid.
Alan, it's fantastic to be here, coming in from Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam.
So you do get about here. So, Kris, let's get to know the person you are, and let's begin by knowing the child who is within the adult. So tell us about an experience from your childhood. As you look back on it, you look on it as a formative experience. Of course, at the time, it probably didn't think about it that way, but as you look back and reflect, think about a formative experience. Your childhood could be anywhere from 1 year old to 50, so whatever.
Sure.
Formative experience there.
So, I mean, I grew up in the countryside, and my dad was always an entrepreneur. He had a electrical contracting business, and it was pretty cool. Like it was pretty big. Like I remember every morning when I was like 8 or 9, that all of these electricians would come around to the house every day and get orders from dad, and they'd jump in the trucks and off they'd go to build big buildings and stuff. And that was always really cool as a kid, see dad like being in control and driving things. And he really pushed me to be an entrepreneur, and like I think ever since I was a kid, that was kind of what I was taught to be. So I kind of am thankful for him for that.
Well, cool. So tell us about your life here. You started out studying engineering, software, and technology, ended up in finance, and ended up not in Australia, but ended up in London. That had to be a pretty big fork in the road. So tell us about that decision.
Yeah, so as I studied software engineering in Queensland, moved to Brisbane and got a job in the big smoke. I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like I was a real country boy. I knew nothing about the world. And I had my first decent job, getting paid decent money. Although, I did have a friend working who was a manager at McDonald's and still got paid more than me. And I was like, I went to university for years and you get paid more than me. This sucks. But there was this guy that was from London that I was speaking to. He had just moved to Australia, and he just kept telling me all these stories about London. I was like, wow, that sounds like the most interesting place on earth. I got to go. And so it wasn't long, quit my job and went over there. I was pretty fresh out of university, so I didn't have any money really because I'd been broke for years. And I was really tight when I got there. I had no idea how long my money had to last me too, because it's like, I don't know, how long is it going to take to get a job? And so I remember I'd buy like 2 cans of soup and a loaf of bread and like eat that for like 2 days. I was too broke to like catch the tube around, so I used to walk everywhere. But I got my first job and it paid a crap load more than I was earning in Australia. And I was like, wow, this is like more money than I've ever seen. This is awesome. So I started living like the high life, and speaking like, as you're working in finance, it's like, everyone talks, and I'm like, man, I'm getting ripped off. I can earn a heck of a lot more than this. And I just got pay rise after pay rise. And, it was great. Like, back then the banks were so loaded with cash, they were just throwing it around to anyone. They were really frivolous. And well, that's kind of it's that corrupt culture that they had of not checking what they're doing and who's building what. And I mean, it was fun, but it was kind of soul destroying, because it's like, yeah, you get paid lots of money, but it's like all you're building is tools to make rich people get richer. It's not the most rewarding job. And so then the global financial crisis came around. I lost my job. And at that point, because it was right at the start of the crisis, I did get offered another job that had the same money that I was on. I was like, man, every other job I've had, I've got a massive pay rise. Like, I'm not taking the same money again. Are you crazy? And then like a few months later, there was no more jobs to be had. So probably should have taken it. But anyway, it set me on the trajectory. So it worked out quite well.
Well, so from there, you began a life as an adventure. And tell us about that.
Yeah, so thankfully I'd saved up a whole bunch of money, not because I was good at saving, just because I was making more money than I could spend. I was a mid-20s, just loving life, working all the time. And then on the weekends, you got Europe as your playground. It was pretty cool time. But then, I lost my job and went, well, what am I going to do with my life? And so I traveled around the world, had a backpack, lived out of a backpack for about 2 years, went to a gazillion countries, stayed in a lot of places for a lot of times. Like I stayed in the British Virgin Islands for, about 2 months or something, and traveled all around Australia, traveled from land, from London to Thailand. It was a great experience, and it really opened up my eyes to that there is more to life than, getting on the tube every day and having to go to a job that you hate and wear a suit and tie and have to get drunk on the weekend to like forget about the terrible week that you've had at work.
And
being a computer geek, I built an online game, and that's when I thought, well, how do you get people to a game to play it? And that's when I started learning about SEO. I ranked my website, and I was like, wow, like this is really cool, and this is a really valuable skill. And so I've been doing that ever since.
Well, tell us about, in your bio, you talked about being arrested, and tell us about that.
So on one of my expeditions, I was traveling around Bulgaria with, this is a bit of a crazy story. But I was traveling around Bulgaria with an Irish friend of mine, and we were getting pretty drunk. And we went to this place called Burgas on the Black Sea. And Bulgarian is quite like Russian, and it's a Slavic language, and I speak pretty okay Russian. And so I can communicate with them. I speak Russian, I'll reply in Bulgarian, and you kind of understand what each other is saying enough. But my Irish friend got so drunk that he fell asleep in the toilet of a bar. And so I had to like kick the door open to like get him out. And I'm like carrying him home. He's got his arm around me, and I'm like dragging him along. And I'm like, we're stuck in this old town, and I'm like, I don't know, how do we get home? And I pull out my wallet to like see that I got some money left. And this prostitute comes over and steals my wallet. And I'm like, holy shit. I drop my mate. I grab this woman. I wrestle my wallet back. She pulls out this pepper spray, goes to spray me. I jump and sprays him straight in the face. And so he like woke up going, what the hell? We like ran into this. There's a taxi just there. We like jump into this taxi. And this prostitute's like holding the door open. I'm like, what the hell? And like kicking her and like, get out of here. And the taxi driver drives off. And like, just go, dude. And after we're driving for a little bit, he's like, you do know that was a man, right? I'm like, I thought she was really strong. And so we got back to our hotel, which was not far. It was just like a couple streets away or something. And yeah, my mate's like so drunk. I'd like get him upstairs, and before long, the reception calls, and I couldn't really understand enough of what they're saying. So I went downstairs, and when I got there, this she-man was in the foyer, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? Like, this incident's not going to end. And so I like worked out how to use the phone. I like called the police because I'm like, this is getting out of hand. And almost instantly, the police were there, and I was like, wow, this is like, what great service you have in Bulgaria. And they're like, oh, do you mind like coming down the station? I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem at all. And it didn't take too long for me to realize that they were arresting me because they're like, you assaulted this like ladyboy. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, and ended up in the slammer in a Bulgarian jail.
Wow, what a life story. So tell us about, you lost your job in 2008, but that didn't really strike you as a real big setback. I mean, I'm sure it was disappointing in some respects. But tell us about a time in your life that was a difficult challenge and a major setback. Because all successful people know that if you're going to be successful, you have to deal with major setbacks. So tell us about that aspect of your life.
So, I mean, like probably when I kind of started my business, so backlinks are really important in SEO, right? Backlinks are a link from one website to another, and that's the fundamentals of SEO. That's how, back in the 90s, there was all sorts of search engines, Yahoo, Alta Vista, Excite, and Google destroyed them because they had an algorithm based on backlinks, and it works really well. Basically, the more websites that link to you, the better you're going to rank. And so back in like 2009, 2010, you could make any old crappy backlinks and rank a website. And that's what I did. Made lots of crappy backlinks and ranked websites. And then I built some software to organize making these crappy backlinks. And they worked great. Like, I mean, I remember one customer that bought a couple $100,000 worth of them. He's like, and he was in the Netherlands, and it's like an SEO company. And he complained to me one time. He's like, dude, like you rank all these sites and then people stop paying us money because they're like at the top for everything. Like, how do we get more money out of them? I mean, I don't know. It just works really good. Like you have to work that bit out. And it was fabulous, and we made a lot of money. But Google, Google spends a lot of time on improving their algorithm, and they brought out the Penguin update, which penalizes websites that have crappy backlinks. So if you're artificially building backlinks and Google detects that you are, they can penalize your website. They can even remove it from the search index. And overnight, our business disappeared completely. And that was like, oh, that's, not great. But thankfully, we'd already been working on a kind of newer service. So like, not because we saw that coming, but we had already been working on like a kind of content, more like on-site SEO service. And so that kept us afloat and kept us bringing revenue. But it was a good time to. I mean, I was pretty new to business back then and didn't really know anything about business. I was a software engineer. What the hell did I know? And it changed the way I thought a lot, because it's like, well, Google's doing that because you're not providing value, right? So like SEO is all about. Google's always the same thing. People go, oh, SEO is changing and evolving. It's like, no, it's not. Google's getting smarter and better at detecting BS, but they're really always just looking for great websites that have great content, that load fast and have a good user experience. Provide that and you're going to rank really well.
So what did you learn from that from a personal perspective?
That focus on quality. It's quality is better than trying to cheat things and be cheap. Like, even on a business sense, I like the saying, if you charge twice as much, you only need half as many customers. And it's just better to work with customers that understand the value of things and, are willing to pay a decent price for things. Like people that are cheap, like just this week, actually, a guy came to our website and said, "Hey, we want some backlinks." And I was having a really busy day, and he's like, "Oh, let's jump on a call. I want to talk about this. I want to spend lots of money." I'm like, "Really? Do you?" And eventually he's like, "All right, I'll buy this lot for like $200. We'll do a test." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And one of our guys called him, and it was just like such a pain. It's like, this guy wants to spend $200 and take a pound of flesh. And it's like, one of our team members said, "This dude is a total pain in the ass." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's just give him a refund and tell him to go somewhere else." And like, it's not worth chasing people that don't, if you want to get my time, like, get out of here. Like, you're going to pay for it. What the information that we have is really valuable, and we can provide a great service. But if you want to go the cheapest guy in town, then that's probably going to get your website penalized, and go right ahead.
So those just tuning into our show today, my guest today is Kris Reid, and he is an expert in digital marketing. He has been in this for the last 10 years at least. Is that right, Kris? That's
about right. About 10 years by now.
And is an expert in utilizing SEOs to develop a business. So Kris has been talking to us about his fascinating life and how it is that he came to get into this business, which was a very circuitous route, but a very interesting route here. So Kris, as an entrepreneur who has lived in many different places around the world, what is it that you find that brings meaning and purpose to your life?
Yeah, I mean, I read a lot of Stoicism. In fact, you can see right here is my book, The Daily Stoic, by Ryan Holiday. Fabulous book. I think that's the 4th or 5th year that I've been through it. It's a little bit of wisdom every day that you read. It's a fabulous book. Highly recommend it to everyone. But it's got like nice quotes from people like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, those kind of greats. Wisdom that survived thousands of years. And what brings purpose to your life is doing your duty. It's like, happiness isn't the most important thing in life. Otherwise, you just like do heroin all day long and think your life's great. But that doesn't give you purpose. And what I'm good at is helping business owners grow their business, and that's what really I enjoy a lot doing. A lot of SEOs do what's called affiliate marketing, where they'll rank their own websites and just sell whoever's product, whoever's going to pay them the most amount of money. Which is why if you Google pretty much anything like what's the best phone, or what's the best speaker, or what's the best computer, you'll find some affiliate website, and it'll be, here's the top 10 ones, and the one at the top's the one that pays us the best commission. And it's total BS.
Yeah.
I know a lot of guys that do that and they make a lot of money. I don't find that very rewarding because it's total BS. I like working with entrepreneurs that love doing what they do, making the world a better place generally. We work with charities, helping them. Like, one of our customers is Food for Life Global, who's a vegan food relief charity that, when people need food, they get in there and make sure they get fed. It's like, well, that's a pretty awesome organization. And so, being able to use the tools that I have to help these people, make the world a better place. And even if it is like real estate investing, which there's generally people that are, we do have quite a few customers that are in real estate investing. And from what I can see of their businesses, they're all very ethical people. Even if they're buying multifamily investments, they're like looking after the buildings and improving the lives of the residents. And it's like, well, that's nice. It's like, okay, everyone can make money, but it's like, they're not like, booting families out that have their house and things like that. They're like improving people's accommodation and, helping the world with their tools. And, I get to empower them by doing what I do. So that's what I enjoy.
So you had a lot of time just running around being happy and just, well, from what I can tell, just chasing pleasure. How did you move from that perspective on life to moving to a place where the meaning of life is actually giving back rather than taking?
Yeah, I mean, like, I still like getting rewarded for what I do. So don't get me wrong with that. That makes me pretty happy too. But, I spend a lot of time on reflecting internally. I do a lot of yoga and meditation. And, being able to sit still. Like, I love the saying, all the world's problems come because men can't sit still. And find happiness sitting in silence in a room is wonderful. Like finding peace and serenity. Like it sounds crazy, but just like, surrender to the universe and don't push too hard against it. Like there's a really great book by Michael Singer. It's called The Surrender Experiment. And one thing he talks about is like, the world's been around, 6.4 billion years or something. And it's like every event in the world had to happen exactly the way it did for us to be speaking right this second. Like if anything happened differently, then we wouldn't be speaking right now. And it's like, how much control do you think you really have over that? Like, you're not that important.
So what led you to this place?
I mean, just... Well, I discovered yoga when I hurt my shoulder at the gym, and then that led me down the rabbit hole of, learning more about spirituality and meditation and just how powerful it is.
Well, interesting. Your persona doesn't make me think that would be a place that you would find purpose and meaning. So, yeah. So it's very interesting to see the deeper side of who you are.
I mean, I'm also vegan and big on animal rights, and so I try and work with a lot of organizations that are helping the world be more compassionate. If there was less violence in the world, whether that's towards other humans or other animals, that'd be awesome. So if people can, and one thing I love about veganism is it's all about compassion and non-violence. And, all the world's problems come from people not being compassionate. It's like, generally, like another, like, so there's a Hindu god called Shiva, and Shiva is called Shiva the Destroyer, right? And Shiva's destroying ignorance. There's a beautiful statue called Nataraj where Shiva's like dancing on top of ignorance, and it's really beautiful. And it's like that's where people's problems are. So if you like, people cause incidental pain to others generally because they're ignorant that they're causing that pain. Because most people don't want to cause pain. So if you can educate people and show them that they're unnecessarily hurting others, then generally they will stop.
Yeah, I'm vegan also, and I mean, a lot of people think, oh, you go into veganism because you think it's a healthy diet, but that really had nothing at all to do with my becoming vegan. It was compassion for other beings. So yeah.
Yeah, super.
So I did find out that it is very, very healthy way to
It's
eat,
super
but,
healthy.
yeah.
So actually, how I started on my journey towards veganism was through yoga, like practicing Ashtanga yoga. I mean, I wasn't born vegan. Well, I was born vegan. Everyone's born vegan, and then they get taught to eat meat.
Yeah.
But
People don't realize that. They think that humans are carnivores by nature, but that's not really the way we evolved. It's actually the opposite of that. Yeah. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah, doing Ashtanga yoga, when I used to eat meat, I could tell the inflammation in my body. And so I stopped eating meat because I could feel the inflammation going down, and I'm more flexible and stronger. And it was completely just for my personal physique. I went, wow, I'm just a much better yogi when I don't eat meat. And it's kind of like smoking cigarettes, right? Like when you smoke cigarettes, you don't want to see all of the terribleness of smoking cigarettes. You want to look at that blindness. But and same with when you eat meat, you don't want to like know about all the pain and suffering that you're causing. And so then when I stopped, I was like, started looking into, what all the meat industry is like. And you're like, holy crap, that's, I used to be a part of that. And then I became a pretty passionate, animal rights activist.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, fascinating. We went to places I never imagined we would go to in this interview. Been most enjoyable. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time here. And I have one last question I ask all of my guests. But before I ask that, tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So, I mean, like if anyone has, the problem with most businesses is they struggle to get more customers. And so, we've developed a pretty simple system to predictably get you more customers and help you grow your business. So if anyone needs help with that, you go to Google and you type the coolest guy in SEO, and you'll see plenty of my pictures. Just click on any one of those links and it'll get towards me somewhere.
So that's the coolest guy in SEO.
Coolest guy in SEO.
All righty. Well, Kris, my last question that I ask all of my guests is, when you come to the end of this life's journey, how do you want your epitaph to read?
I mean, it's kind of anti-stoicism. Stoicism, they really focus on that you have one life, and when you're dead, who gives a crap? And that's really what because it thinking about that and your legacy, it like builds the ego, and the ego, another book by Ryan Holiday, which is a fabulous book, is Ego is the Enemy. And it really is. The ego, it's evolutionarily there to protect us, but it just causes trouble these days. So the more that you can like destroy the self, destroy the ego, and don't worry about things like that, the happier your life will be. So put that on my epitaph.
Okay, doke. Well, Kris, it's been a delight. I hope we can have future conversations, and thanks for being on the show, Kris.
Thank you for tuning in to Creekside Chats with Successful Multifamily Real Estate Investors, brought to you by Steed Talker Capital. Steed Talker Capital works with both new and established investors nationwide, creating opportunities to flourish in all areas of life. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steed Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steed Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures great and small flourish abundantly. For resources to enhance your well-being through multifamily real estate investment, connect with us online at capital.steedtalker.com.